Prior to the service learning project, we all took a survey to figure out what our top leadership strengths were and what our lower ones were. For example, my top strength was humor and perseverance, my lowest being love of learning and appreciation for beauty and excellence. As a group, we were challenged to be actively aware of our lower strengths and try to build upon them while we were participating in our service learning project. One way we, as a group, combated this was by simply stepping out of our comfort zones as leaders. For example, Octavia worked on one of her lower strengths, fairness, by stepping out of her comfort zone and making sure that her and her partner were distributing the workload equally. Going into this service learning project, I had a closed-minded viewpoint. I simply thought that we would be spending a day working planting trees, but while that was what we were literally doing, there was so much more to this trip. Who knew that you could learn so much about yourself and others by simply working together? I believe that before this project, we all had our own views on how we led individually, but this trip opened our minds to different ways to lead, whether it's with fairness, humor, or the appreciation of the arts. Our whole group was able to grow as leaders during this trip, which was very impressive to see.
Project, I competed at the GNAC cross-country meet in Monmouth, Oregon, while the others in my group planted trees at the Laurel Canyon Creek. Our character strengths were tested in both projects. Curiosity was one of the main ones experienced. Since I'm a freshman, I had never been to this meet before, so I didn't know what to expect. Those in my group who planted trees didn't know the reasoning behind planting the trees and spreading out the hay. Through teamwork, both of these opportunities were completely successful and led to a better understanding of the importance of what we were doing. I had a tough race, but throughout it, I had to realize why I was there and whom I was competing for. I had to forget my negative thoughts and race for my team. This made me push to close the gap between my closest teammate and myself to push each other harder, race together, and earn more points as a team. Waking up at 7 in the morning sounded unnecessary until they realized they were learning new things about the environment and got to meet new people along the way. When everyone did their part, 1,300 trees were planted much faster than they thought it would take. Staying open-minded and thinking about the team as a whole made things more efficient, and new relationships were formed in the end.
Reading was A Tough Mind and a Tender Heart by Martin Luther King Jr. An analogy that MLK presents in this piece is that together, science and religion do not compete but are complementary. Just like how being tough-minded and being tender-hearted, when in the right balance, work together to create a better person and, in our case, better leaders. Accessing a tender heart can give you the ability to have compassion and love for the people you work with and see them as individuals. Groups are more effective when they are led with love and are not commodified. And leading a group with love will be infinitely easier if you also love and are passionate about the work that your group is doing. The other side of this is that you must be tough-minded enough to stand up for what you know is right, and you must hold each group that you lead to those same standards. The same rule of balance can be applied to other sets of character strengths. For example, perseverance and judgment. A good leader can follow through on an idea to the end, but they also must be able to use judgment to decide if and when it may be time to give up on that project.
Kind of bouncing off Claire's point a little, a balance of a tough mind and a tender heart leads into this idea of all of the virtues and characteristics a leader can possess. Even though I hadn't really thought about it before, when Craig Dunn talked to the class about integrity, he made me realize that integrity is neither a characteristic of someone nor a virtue. So what is it then? Through the examples Mr. Dunn provided and reflecting upon my own ideas of what integrity looks like, I've come to realize that integrity is more of a verb than a definable idea or word. It's something you do, not something you have or are. I've realized now that everyone has the potential to lead and live with integrity, and that it is not some angelic virtue or characteristic that is given to those chosen few destined for greatness. With this knowledge, I challenge not only myself, but everyone to think about how they use integrity in their lives and think of the consequences of even the most simple decisions. Are they consistent with your values or morals? And are they respectful and beneficial to the people that have put their faith in you? By seeing integrity as an action that must be conscious rather than a subconscious part of the personality, we are causing ourselves to be more active in the moral decision-making and how we communicate with others.
The Jesse and Anab video conversation they had with the class was one of the most educational and inspiring conversations for my group. Jesse and Anab started talking about how they started as leadership scholar students at Western and got to where they are right now by acquiring different leadership skills along the way. They were a true inspiration for the class. They talked about the hardships they faced as students and in their job. They mainly talked about ethnicity and diversity, but they also gave us some tips on how to stand up for ourselves, prove ourselves worthy of something, and how to become a leader in what we do. They basically talked about things that we all related to and could learn a lot from. One of the things they talked about, my group and I really liked, is about adversity. In their workplace, they both faced hardships because of their ethnicity. Adversity is an unfortunate happening in life. It exists in every business world. Therefore, the first thing to do to overcome adversity is to acknowledge that it exists. Then you have to be patient and ignore everything around you that will not help you achieve your goal and focus on the things that do. That's how Jesse and Anab overcame adversity. In addition, by working hard, they proved themselves to be worthy for the job and become leaders in what they do.
The leadership skills we are working on now will help us in the future in our careers, everyday life, and family. After talking with Jesse and Anab, we know that leadership can play a huge role in our jobs. With Anab, we learned that it is important to stay true to one's own character strengths and be confident even if others may have preconceived thoughts. With Jesse, it is important for him to constantly stay aware of his actions at work as he wants to show his coworkers that he is a leader in the office and is devoted to his work. We can essentially apply these leadership skills to anything we participate in the future. We learned from our service learning project that if we approach activities and any opportunity with a good attitude and keep our strengths in mind, we can be successful in our activities. We have all learned a tremendous amount about our own leadership strengths as well as areas where we can improve. We are excited to explore our lives with these new skills and perspectives.